welcome to Good News Weekly, episode 7. Hey, so here's the deal. It's really tempting and really easy to look at every problem you face through the same skewed glasses. Mm-hmm. It's really easy to approach every problem thinking that the same tool is the right one to solve it. And if you try to use a screwdriver on a nail, if you try to use a hammer to cut a board, if you try to use the wrong tool, no matter how perfect the situation, you're going to mess things up. If you look at everything in life through the same skewed glasses, you're not going to see things clearly. What do I mean? Well, is racism a problem in our country?
Yes.
In our world? But is it every problem?
No.
Did Illinois blow out a March Madness because of racism? Well, no, maybe because of bad coaching or we had a bad day. Is sexism real in our country? Mm-hmm. Yes. Is the abuse of power real in our country? Yes. Is there a group of people that seem to often get everything the way they want? Classism, is that a problem? Yes. Mm-hmm. But if I take my preferred solution and apply it to every single problem, I am the one who can't see clearly.
That's right.
The Bible is full of problems, both systemic problems and personal problems. And we need to be careful that as we apply solutions to the real problems of our world, that we don't start calling everything the same problem.
That's right.
It may be you watching this today, you had an abusive father. And some of the problems that come into your life may be because you have an abusive father. But if you get a flat tire today driving home, it isn't necessarily because your dad was a bozo.
Exactly. And
without realizing it, it's really easy to put every problem that we face, every difficulty that we encounter, look at it through the same, again, glasses. And when we do that, we don't see clearly, even when we think we do. This is Good News Weekly, episode 7, and we're glad that you're here watching today.
Let's get it. All right, so we're back. Thank you for coming. Okay, thank you for coming back. My name is Johnny, one of the leaders at our new church. We just started Good News in the Neighborhoods. My man, Pastor Luke. We're here, Good News Weekly, episode 7. So we got Super Christian Guy.
Super Christian Guy is a part of our show. He's, if people are just tracking along, just tell them about Super Christian Guy, Johnny.
Super Christian Guy is that guy that just got saved and he wants to save the whole world, and he could be a little pharisaic, a little too much. He means well, but he could just do a little too much.
Zeal without knowledge is not good, Proverbs said, and that's him to the max. All right, he's got something for you today.
Oh, here we go. All right, pray for me, y'all. All right, I guess what I'm saying is I need you to submit to me. All right, and she says, I mean, as long as you can't afford, what did it say? I'm sorry. I mean, as long as you can't afford to buy me dinner, I don't think so. I know that's right. She said, if you can't buy me dinner, how am I going to submit to you? That makes sense to me.
Submission.
Yeah.
It's just like a Christian word. It's in the Bible. The Bible in the New Testament talks about all of us submitting to one another as unto the Lord.
Yep.
It also talks about submitting to our leaders who are over us. It also talks about wives submitting to their husbands.
Oh, shoot.
What does Super Christian Guy not understand when he's telling his girlfriend, they're dating as far as I understand.
Yeah.
He says, what I'm saying is I need you to submit to me. And she says, well, I mean, you can't even afford to buy me dinner.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think submission is something you should ask for.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? You should just, if you're doing the things you're supposed to do, like affording to buy dinner, I don't know where I was going. Why does this always happen when I'm on camera?
It's a Super Christian Guy. He's so bad, you just get that acrid smell in your nostrils.
Yeah, it makes you want to sneeze.
It's like, Mark 10:45, Jesus said, for the Son of Man did not come to be served.
But to serve.
And to give his life as a ransom for many. And where this whole idea of submission got out of whack, and culture is trying to fix it in maybe a bad way, and Christians are on different whatever, is that the husband, I believe biblically, the Bible teaches, is to lead his home.
That's right.
But what that means is he is to be the lead servant.
Exactly.
That doesn't mean that he
he gets to just do this and come home, watch ESPN, while
Cultivate privilege, yeah.
while everybody else serves him. No, he should be the one that's serving the most, doing the most, you know?
And so a super Christian guy doesn't get, he's got like the right idea, he's been reading the Bible, he's telling this girl like, you need to do this or that. My experience has been that when the man is leading, and by leading I mean serving.
Exactly.
That a godly woman can't wait to fold her life in to a man who serves like that.
Right.
And the reason why it gets skewed so often is the man's like, kind of going for what he wants.
Exactly.
Pushing for it. And then she like, well.
Exactly. Like, no, it shouldn't be that. If it's a servant leadership thing. You know what I mean? Submission is when a woman wants to submit, she's submitting under your leadership, not under your, I guess the word I'm looking for, under your dictatorship. So it's not dictatorship. It's, being submissive under leadership.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
I've been thinking a lot about this thing that happened in Atlanta and the shooting of these Asian women working at these spas, and this young man who called the name of Christ, but also had this. And the part that caught my eye, there's a bunch of parts to it, and the part that caught my eye was the part about him describing this sexual addiction and then this need that he had to eliminate or destroy or kill.
Yeah.
And it just caught my mind. There's a verse, and we'll throw it in there on the screen, from Colossians, where it talks about destroy what is sinful in you.
Exactly.
And that can be covetousness and sexual temptation. It can be all kinds of stuff, Paul says. But it brings me to this, we do a cup every time. And the cup today is, in you is greater than out there. In you is greater than out there. So the guy, and you got to listen to what I'm saying. The idea that temptation needs to be destroyed, he's right. He's got it nailed.
Right.
The part that he completely misses, to tragic consequences that are unacceptable, beyond imagination, is his thought and his understanding, whether he was poorly taught or whether he poorly applied. I have a lot of grace for people who do crazy things. It isn't always the pastor's fault.
Right.
Sometimes you chose not to listen.
Facts. Agreed.
But what he got so wrong is that what you're supposed to be destroying is the sin nature, the temptation, the access to temptation that is in you.
That's right.
You don't get the right ever to go around hanging the temptation that you're dealing with around other people's necks as though it's their responsibility to deal with it.
Exactly.
Now, is modesty a biblical virtue?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
But just because you don't think a woman or you don't think a man is dressed modestly doesn't mean it's their fault if you're lusting.
Right.
It's your fault.
Exactly. It's in you.
Is drinking to excess a problem?
Absolutely.
So does that mean that you have the right to go into a liquor store with a baseball bat and just start knocking everything off the shelves?
Right. No.
It actually sounds kind of fun if they were all empty.
Yeah.
It's that destructive.
We was at the airplane hangar and
yeah.
we could do it. Yeah, but yeah. That is, the thing is, it just breaks my heart, man, because what you're saying is so true. We don't get to do that. We have to be disciplined. The Bible talks about, murdering our flesh. What I'm saying? Like self-discipline, not murdering others outside of our flesh. You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
It's so interesting, isn't it? Because what the devil does so effectively is not change the truth to something the opposite, but pervert the truth just slightly.
Yeah.
And then it gets in our minds and causes such dramatic consequences.
And all that people remember now is this guy was a Christian. That's all people remember. That's all people talk about. That's all I've been seeing online is that, look, this guy was a Christian and this is what the Christians do and this is why I don't believe anymore and this is da-da-da-da-da. Man, read the Bible, man. Read the Bible. You know what I'm saying? Read the Bible, yo. It's not in there. What he did was an act of terrorism, and it just blows my mind that we keep giving these guys these excuses. He had a sexual addiction. Father wasn't around. He was this man. He's a stone cold killer. Okay, yeah. And this guy, he's gonna get everything that's coming to him.
Yeah, he sure is.
And it's heartbreaking.
Well, what is so tragic to me, I'm blessed. I have a beautiful family. I was raised. My parents helped me go to college. I have so many privileges that I've been blessed. And the Bible is so clear. We were just talking about a second ago.
Yeah.
That when you've been given a lot, it requires of you a lot.
That's right.
The people who love Jesus are supposed to be the people most desirous of protecting, serving, helping people that are vulnerable.
Right.
My understanding is that many of these women were immigrants. I don't know this perfectly, but my understanding is that some of them weren't even like proficient English speakers. These types of people, however they got to our country, are the types of people that those who call the name of Jesus Christ, I'm start preaching.
Come on.
Hey, are required to protect and to take care of.
That's right.
And my heart also breaks for the church that's associated. I'm sure, like any church, they had made mistakes. I'm sure the pastors have been ripping their hearts apart all the ways they could have done. But it's
everything.
But now to the point. Whatever you feel about this story, by the time you watch this, it'll have been a couple weeks since this story happened. The antidote to what's wrong is not for you to throw mud at what's wrong with everybody out there. The antidote to what's wrong is to figure out what's happening in you and to do something about it.
It's to look inside.
In you is more important than what's out there.
That's right.
Speaking of short, talented celebrities who everyone's been yelling about.
Oh, man. My man, Kirk Franklin, man. We got to talk about it. It's unfortunate. He was, it was a recording, a conversation between him and his son that was recorded, like you said, a couple weeks ago when you guys see this video. And it showed Kirk Franklin really, flying off at the handle, saying every cuss word under the sun. It was a very graphic conversation. It's online. Look it up if you want. But we wanted to talk about it, man, and just kind of give a response to that. It broke my heart to see a lot of Christians, really trying to destroy Kirk, man, online. And it just, I don't understand that. He was called in a moment of weakness. His son, you don't know the whole story. Now I'm not justifying it, right? I'm not justifying the language. Even Kirk is not justifying it. He came out and apologized for using that language, but we don't know the whole story. And I just don't understand why believers constantly will go off of one soundbite, one side of things, and just go with it and just try to crucify someone of his magnitude. Not to say that he's a great gospel singer, right? But we're not putting Kirk on a pedestal. He's a human. He needs Jesus just like the rest of us.
That's me. He's not that short.
What you mean?
You say he needs to be standing on a pedestal.
I didn't say that he needed to be standing on a pedestal.
He's just the way God made him.
He is. I didn't see. I didn't do. I didn't do that. Oh man. But anyway, forget what he said. But it just it's a sad situation. All I'm saying is just we can't be so quick to judge. You know what I mean?
One of the most meaningful things in my life in the last few years was the book Just Mercy by Bryan.
Okay.
And it's that movie with Michael B. Jordan.
Oh yeah.
And Jamie Foxx. Yes. Amazing. Yeah, but he says this thing. It stuck with me. People are more than the worst thing they've ever done.
That's right.
And I shudder to think about how I'd be feeling if the most colorful sentence I ever said in frustration was put on TV. And I shudder to think, I sort of was canceled once already. Yeah, you kind of. Is cancel culture, is it like a double jeopardy? Am I good now? Or
I think,
or can I get canceled again?
You might get, probably all of us could at this point. But
this man did something that was wrong. It's never right to do the wrong thing.
Right.
It's never right to talk. But this idea that we somehow, when we see a certain person or a certain way, or we get this, that now we get to make all these extrapolations out about who they are, it's wrong.
Yeah.
It's unnecessary. Especially, I resent the idea that what he said is inherently worse than the choice to release it to shame him. I think that that's all wrong. There's no pain like family pain.
I mean, kid pain. I mean, we're dads.
I mean,
could you imagine what you would feel
like? My heart breaks for what it must feel like to be a parent in that situation. Yeah. He's wrong. He was wrong. It's wrong. But I also think that it's important to say sometimes that we live in a culture that many times views emotion sort of like The Price is Right.
Yep.
You ready? So in The Price is Right, it's bid as close as you can without going over. Yeah. And if you're over the amount, you're out. You're disqualified.
Out completely.
And I'm not sure. I think that that's cultural more than biblical. The idea that emotion is always something to be taming.
Especially as men.
and not something to be understanding or channeling.
Men is
Again,
like, yeah, wow.
I would suggest that in all likelihood, a person with that level of emotion who is a great artist, great artists are always emotional.
Yeah.
Great artists are always people who color outside the lines. When did we start talking about our friend Kim Stratton?
Right. Shout out to Kim Stratton, celebrity chef.
Great artists are people who color outside the lines emotionally. And that gift, when used in the spirit, is amazing.
It's amazing, right?
And that gift, when used in the flesh, is sad.
Yeah.
But this idea
true.
that too much is always worse than not enough.
Right.
I'm just not sure I think I agree with it.
Yeah, I just, you know, my thing is, you know, like I had said, man, like I'm a dad, you know, and I would be so heartbroken if one of my kids were to do that, especially since, you know, if you know the whole story, his son is an older guy. He's 33, turning 33 this year, and they've had issues since he was in high school, you know, and so I watched the interview with Kirk and his wife recently, and they broke down the whole story, and there was apologies exchanged and all of that stuff, but none of that was on the video. Yeah. Kirk had called the family therapist on the video. So like, and people were so just quick to judge him. And you know, I think it's in Matthew when he told the story about the woman who was caught in the act of adultery, right? And so all of these guys, these Pharisees was ready to, you know, throw stones at her. And he said, if any one of you guys are without sin, throw the first stone. And everybody just put their stones down and walked away. And that needs to be our approach when it comes to other believers, you know, falling in a sin or having an issue like Kirk. You know what I'm saying? Like, come on, man. We're parents. You know, we're human. You're gonna have days. Imagine if our you know, lowest moments were caught on camera. Come on, man. Or your thoughts were caught on camera. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I don't have any room to judge him. It's sad. I don't condone what he said and all of that stuff, obviously, but he doesn't either. So just drop the rock. You know what I'm saying?
We're going to be back in just a second with 3 things we like and Bible reading. This is Good News Weekly.
Yep. Cool.
All right, we are back on Good News Weekly, and we're being joined here by a friend of mine. We're so honored to have our friend, pastor. To me, he's a bishop. Bryan Loritts is here with us on the line today, and we're grateful to have him. Been a great friend to me for a long time. Pastor, you just recently came out with a book about being a father and what you learned from your father. And in these kind of crazy times and just kind of the world that we're living in where it feels like there's pressure on every side on the family, what if you could just like throw something, we're going to put it in the chat, a link, everyone should go buy the book, but if you could throw something in for young parents like us who got young kids and are trying their best to kind of go through, what's the message you were hoping to get out through that book?
Yeah, you know, first of all, it's not about me as a father, because that book is still being written. Like I got a 20-year-old, an 18-year-old, and a 16-year-old, and
You're in it.
they're driving me nuts right about now. So, but I'm reflecting a lot about how my dad fathered me, and we just look at 4 gifts that I think every dad can give their kids. And it's the acronym RIGHT, and that's relationship, integrity, teaching, and experiences. And undergirding all of that is intentionality, right? Like great leadership, no matter what it is you're leading, is being intentional. And so, you know, just being a dad and showing up, that's like 90% of it, right? Being intentional. But if we can give them these 4 gifts, you know, I kind of use the opening analogy that every dad by his presence or absence is either going to be a headwind in his kid's life or a tailwind, right? And I talk about flying from coast to coast. You know, when you fly from west to east, you get there faster because you have a tailwind. When you go from east to west, you get there slower because you have a headwind. So I just want to encourage guys listening, you know, your dad may not have been around. You may have never met him, or maybe he was just a sorry, passive, or abusive presence. Some of the best dads I know come from those kinds of contexts because they said at some point, my kid is not going to know the kind of pain that I knew, right? But they had a dad who was a headwind, Now they got to their destination, but they kind of got there a little slower because their dad wasn't proactive. And so we got to make up our minds. I want to be a tailwind that's going to push my kids to their God ordained destiny. So that's really the message of the book.
Let me press that like one point further. I feel like we're in this moment where so many people are, everyone's talking about deconstructing. So many people are. And so many people are kind of like throwing off so many things that they didn't like about some intersection of their home and their church and what they grew up in. And I feel like a blessing that you and I share is a thankfulness for what we received. I guess maybe for people who are kind of like stuck in that, trying to keep what was good and put away what wasn't good about their family of origin, what's the wise path as opposed to maybe just kind of burn it all down to the ground?
Yeah, that's a great question. I was talking about this with a buddy of mine the other day, and in some senses, you get these parents, like if you read biographies, right? All biographies kind of have the same arc. Right. Come from nothing, struggle, hit greatness, and next thing you know, people write the book on you. Well, most biographies, they don't write on their kids. And the reason why they don't write on their kids is when the person comes from nothing, struggles, makes it into greatness, they say, my kids will never have to struggle the way that I struggled. Right. And what they don't realize is you're handicapping your kid from the very thing that made you great. And so one of the greatest gifts we can give our kids is the gift of struggle. And so what a lot of times parents go, I'm going to give my kids what they didn't have. Where I want to say, you need to give them what you did have. Like, you got to be able to say, what was it about my upbringing that I think contributed to my work ethic, my sense of resilience, my toughness, my grit, or whatever, and give those. And we talk about this in the book in the experience section. Give those experiences to your kids, because I think what's killing us, especially in middle to upper middle class settings, is entitled kids. That's a fact. Just entitled kids. And guess who's really the culprit? It's us. It's us as parents. So yeah.
Man, that's so good. I'm kind of in that same boat right now with my 15-year-old, and he just doesn't appreciate as much, and I don't fault him, because everything you just said was so true. I grew up in I grew up in a 2-parent household, but not, I was growing up in the hood, you know what I'm saying? So we didn't have everything, but I'm trying to give him a different life that I didn't have. And so in that, I was talking to my wife, I'm like, are we doing too much? Are we like, are we doing too much for this kid? Like, cause he just don't care. Like, I gave him an Apple Watch, he's like, no, it's on the floor. I don't care. So sidebar, next question. So with all of the racial, climate and stuff that's been going on, Pastor, I know you're a leader in that space. What have you seen, I guess, different from, 5 years ago versus, now, and kind of where we're going?
Well, on the encouragement side, obviously we all saw the George Floyd murder, 8 minutes, 46 seconds, and we were just horrified by it. What encouraged me is never in my lifetime have I felt the sense of white empathy and advocacy, which I think was really good. I mean, you looked in the streets, in the protests, it wasn't just Black folks. It was multi-ethnic. Like, I just can't believe this. So my father was in Bible college in 1968, April 4th, 1968, Bible college. They're learning about Jesus. Dr. King gets assassinated. My dad said, they said nothing. They said nothing. They didn't include it in a prayer. They did nothing. And so I think as this thing is building, we have a long way to go. I'm encouraged in recent years that there seems to be this universal sense of this is enough. Like,
I get the sense as well. I feel like these kids, the younger generation, they are resilient, they're fearless, and they don't feel the same way we did. My son had an issue at school one time last year. A kid called him the N-word, and I was obviously furious. What what's this? What, you know, I'm upset. He was like, Dad, I just looked at him and said, you know, that word doesn't do anything to me.
Mm,
Like,
mm.
next, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just, I'm like, you didn't do anything? No. You didn't swing on him? No, I didn't do anything. I didn't need to.
Right.
I was just like proud and confused at the same time. Like, wow, this kid is really like, it didn't mean anything to him. And I think these are the future, you know, leaders of that movement. And I'm really encouraged as well. I do see that.
Yep. Absolutely.
Pastor, I want you to try to help for a second. I think a lot of people that I know are in a space like this. They really have had their eyes opened and they really want to be an advocate for justice. They also see certain elements of the movement toward justice that bother them. And they don't want to be one of two people. They don't want to be a person who puts the Bible away and just goes with whatever culture says. But they don't want to be those guys who are standing on the side, like the white folks often are saying, not too much, not too fast, not the wrong way. They don't want to do either extreme. They want to care about justice while not giving away their allegiance to the word of God. Can you give some language and maybe just some helpful guardrails of people who want to be right, but are nervous that if I don't go with the whole thing in the movement, I'm somehow like part of this other thing. I don't want to be that either.
Right.
Yeah. So I think 90% of it is just showing up. I think sometimes we just overthink this. Listen, is Black Lives Matter problematic? Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Like, I've had discussions with, African Americans just go to their website. Like they have a stated aim to get rid of the nuclear family. Like, that's a problem. That's a problem. But that doesn't mean I can't go to the protest.
Right.
Right. I think I can parse those things out. And I say this in love. Many of my white evangelical friends who voted for Trump would say, didn't vote for Trump, I voted for the party's platform. Mm-hmm. I can get that. So if you can parse the difference between Trump and your party, surely you can parse the difference between showing up at the rally and not being a part of Black Lives Matter. You know what I'm saying? Like take that same paradigm and attach it over here.
Right. I love that. It's like you got Trump and then you got MAGA.
Right.
Them the flag. I mean, the Capitol.
Yep.
That was down
Absolutely.
There. I get it, man. That's good.
I think that what is so useful in that is, from my perspective, it's so easy to start like when you're trying to solve problems, creating bigger problems in other ways. It's like, well, if our solution creates a bigger problem, this kind of thing.
Yeah.
And so I think so many people right now are trying, but then there's also the group that are kind of in bad faith, trying to pick away at everybody and everything. And I think for folks who are trying to learn and continuing to grow and trying to be part of the solution, what encouragement would you give them about when is the moment to stop talking to a person who doesn't really want to talk? They just want to pick at you and fight and make you feel worse. How do you kind of know when the moment is, all right, we've done this enough times, maybe it's time just to not let your comments on my Facebook page or whatever.
Well, I think the most powerful thing, Luke, and my guess is over the last couple of years, you could attest to this. It's relationships, right? A lot of these people do not have like a relational grid. That's multi-ethnic, that's cross-cultural, right? Where we can sit down and we're walking in community with one another. If you read Bonhoeffer's Black Jesus, which Reggie Williams, that was his PhD dissertation, Dietrich Bonhoeffer in his 20s comes to Harlem to do a fellowship at Union. While there, he joins the Abyssinian Baptist Church, Adam Clayton Powell, this Black church, Black pastor. Bonhoeffer joins, teaches in Sunday school. They actually say the phrase cheap grace wasn't original to Bonhoeffer, that he got it from his Black pastor, Adam Clayton Powell. He makes a friend at the church, Albert Fisher, who turns him on to Negro spirituals. Albert's like, come on, go with me to the Jim Crow South. Bonhoeffer's mind is blown. A couple years later, Bonhoeffer says, I don't go back to Germany to stand up for the Jews unless I take a stop at the Abyssinian Baptist Church. What changed him and what formed him wasn't a sermon or even reading a book. It was the power of experiences and relationships where he immersed himself in another person's context that totally changed his life. I don't think we talk about Bonhoeffer unless Bonhoeffer does that. And so what happens is we're far too tribal, right? And so when we just hang out in our own little tribes, we only have generalizations and stereotypes to go on about the other tribes out there, right? But it's hard to be racist towards people whose feet are under your dining room table. That's really, really hard, right? So the number one thing I could say is, as simplistic as it sounds, just make some friendships with people who don't look like you, act like you, think like you, or vote like you.
Awesome. Drop the mic on that one. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Shoot.
Well, we're can't wait till the day. A lot of the folks watching this and listening to this are part of this new church that Johnny and I and some friends are starting together. Good News in the Neighborhood, and we are unabashedly a multi-ethnic church, and unabashedly trying to bring the good news to people around us. And just straight truth, none of that stuff would be happening without your influence in my life. And we just honor and are so grateful for the work that you've been doing for a long time that we're picking up. And we can't wait till the day that you're preaching in the room to us, Pastor.
Oh, so my wife's from Evanston, so just say the word. And it needs to coordinate with a Bears game. So, you know.
We'll have to have it. Let's preach before the Bears game, because I don't think anyone's going to be in a worshiping mood after it's over.
See, you just messed the whole thing up there. Bring that down.
Are you not a Bears fan?
I am, but we just signed Andy Dalton, and I don't want to mess up the vibe we got going. We just had
Talk about good news.
This is a good news thing. I don't want to just,
I heard y'all were after Russell Wilson. Is there still a possibility there?
Yeah. I don't know, man. I don't know what we're doing, bro. I don't know. Our whole defense. So you about to have me go on a rant.
You could have had Mahomes. You could have had Deshaun.
Traded up. We signed Mitchell Trubisky. Don't nobody know who he is, and we just Kyle Fuller. We just let him go. Everybody wants to leave. It's just I don't know. We might not win a game this year. I don't know.
With that, good news. Thanks so much for your time, Pastor.
Oh, great being with you guys.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
Yep.
All right, Good News Weekly. We're back. We got a new segment. It's called Are We Sure?
Yep.
It's about hot take culture.
Okay. Yep.
And I'm going to ask you an Are We Sure in just a second.
Okay.
And then we got 3 things that we like. Now, Johnny.
Yes.
Are we sure March Madness brackets are fun?
We are completely sure it's destroyed.
Are we sure it's fun to pick the games and then be miserable while you're watching the games and your team loses?
It's fun. It ain't fun this year. It ain't fun this year at all. It's not fun.
All right, we got 3 things. The first one, I want to just throw out a clothing brand for you to check out. This kid sounds so pejorative. This guy, Micah John, he designed all the merch for Good News in the Neighborhood. If you've seen this stuff that we put out, the sweatshirts stuff, and our logo. And he's a clothing designer based out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. He has a brand called Zeal. I'll put a link in the chat, but his stuff is so cool and so fresh. Most of it I'm too old to wear, but it's really cool. Like, he does hand tie-dyed sweatshirts. And
we should have had some stuff on today.
I know. Well, he sent me some hats in the mail that apparently didn't come yet, but
yeah.
Zeal.com. You got one?
Yeah. Man, this book right here by David Goggins, Can't Hurt Me. The clean edition, because it's a lot of foul language in the regular one, so get the clean edition. This guy, his story is amazing. If you want to get motivated to just get out and pursue your dreams or whatever, and just listen to this dude's story, what he came from, his background, it's a really good, great story. If you're into that type of things, it's more like, what's the tagline? Master your mind and defy the odds. Cool. You know, he was told he couldn't do all these other things that he's doing, and he's amazing. Great book. We'll put it in the description.
I think that this might be the best snack that there is in the world.
Yes.
These are Dot's pretzels.
They are.
I don't know Dot. I don't even know if Dot's a person, to be honest. But here's what I know. if Dot, if you're out there and you're looking for some influencer vibe, we got you.
Put us
Come
in.
on. Dot's pretzels, they like have a little bit of a tang to them. Johnny,
Yes.
come on.
I was at my neighbor's house, and these was out. And me and my wife went to try it a couple. I said, man, what in the world? What are these? So these are Dots. You only can get them at the time, like Ace Hardware or something. I'm like, Ace Hardware? Like, where, really? And so now they're everywhere. So I think is that her on the background?
Maybe.
I hope it's not Dot. Well, yeah.
Dot's pretzels. This is the day that the Lord has made. That was 3 things we like. At Good News in the Neighborhood, we follow a daily schedule of reading the Psalms and the Proverbs. And today, the day this goes live, March 31st, 2021, amazingly, is the 90th day.
Yep.
We're about a quarter of the way through the year. So we're going to read Psalm 90. Bless us, brother.
All right, Psalm 90, here we go. Lord, you have been our refuge in every generation. Before the mountains were born, before you gave birth to the earth and the world, from eternity to eternity, you are God. You return mankind to the dust, saying, return, descendants of Adam. For in your sight 1,000 years are like yesterday that passes by, like a few hours of the night. You end their lives, they sleep. They are like grass that grows in the morning. In the morning it sprouts and grows. By evening it withers and dries up. For we are consumed by your anger. We are terrified by your wrath. You have set your iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your presence. For all our days ebb away under your wrath. We end our years like a sigh. Our lives last 70 years, or if we are strong, 80 years. Even the best of them are struggle and sorrow. Indeed, they quickly pass, and we fly away. Who understands the power of your anger? Your wrath matches the fear that is due to you. Teach us to number our days carefully so that we may develop wisdom in our hearts. Lord, how long? Turn and have compassion on your servants. Satisfy us in the morning with your faithful love, so that we may shout with joy and be glad all our days. Make us rejoice for as many days as you have humbled us, for as many years as we have seen adversity. Let your work be seen by your servants and your splendor by their children. Let the favor of the Lord our God be on us. Establish for us the work of our hands. Establish the work of our hands. Amen. Amen.
Thanks so much for joining us today. Thanks, Bryan Loritts, for joining us. You can check out all the stuff in the chat.
Yeah.
You can, I guess what they say, tap the bell.
Yeah, tap the bell, subscribe, and let us know how you feel about the content in the comments. We will respond back.
Thanks so much for joining us today.
This is Good News.